This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast for Tuesday, February the 15th. A lot to uncover today. A lot from this morning's show. We're going to get into Charity's beautiful sweater in a second, but before that, I'll let you know we're going to talk about
literally.
Groundhogging. No. Groundhogging. What is groundhogging in dating?
Oh my goodness, this scared me this morning.
Don't Google groundhogging and guess which one of those definitions we're going to talk about, because I didn't know that before we
I thought the wrong one.
Habits of the most likable people. If you want to be a nicer person in 2022, what do likable people do that the rest of us do not, or at least some of the qualities that they have?
Yeah, it doesn't say that you need all of them.
No, that's impossible.
If you do, wow,
yeah.
I want to meet you.
That's impressive if you do.
Yeah.
Even adopting one new one from this list would seem like a great habit to pick up.
I think that's a realistic goal, yes.
Yeah.
If you can take one thing away and work on that.
So highlight some of those. Groundhogging. And a big celebration day yesterday for the United Way of Quinte. Congratulations.
Over $2 million.
Yep.
They smashed their goal. They were hoping for 1.9 with their fundraising campaign last year. And it was announced yesterday, of course, the Day of Love, how much we do love the United Way. Over $2 million raised here in the Quinte area. Incredible.
And so 70% of all the money raised is through workplace giving. So if you have it, and we do that here, where you just automatically take $1, $2, $5, $10, whatever you want off your pay, so you don't see it. Nobody knocks on the door. And then that money shows up in your T4. You don't need the receipt. It's already there for you to claim it on your income tax. Easy peasy. 70% of the money raised is done that way. So contact the United Way if you'd like to do that. And hats off to Sherry Meeks of Belleville Police Service. Back-to-back years with her as the campaign chair, raising almost $4 million in a pandemic.
That's incredible.
The 2-year stretch in a pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
$4 million. A lot of time and effort to make it work. So Sherry, congrats on that.
And yesterday, the United Way was also showing love for those who did donate, or for the community. They were out handing out chocolate.
Were they?
In
Great.
different areas. They were in Belleville, Quinte West, Sterling, Madoc, Tweed, Bancroft, Picton, and Deserano handing out chocolate from Nestle. So if you saw them and you were perhaps one of the recipients of this chocolate, there you go. Thank you. And kudos to you. For all
the social services that will now be made available because they hit the target, because, well, what happens if they don't hit the target? Well, let me tell you what happens, having been part of that process, is then they take a look at how much money they have, and people go in and they say these organizations need the money to run these programs or these buildings that they work in, and they say, you're not getting any this year. Oh, so there's one program that doesn't get anything.
On.
Or only gets 75% of it. So now they got to find a way to go get more money.
Exactly.
Or within that organization, they can't run all the program. Anyway, it just means we hurt as a community.
Well, and I know I'm putting you on the spot. Can you name some of these organizations?
Oh, like YMCA, for example. They used to be able to get quite a bit. There are organizations surrounding poverty for food. Organizations you can go to if you get your heat cut off, like where can you go to get help? So many of them are faceless and nameless. I mean, I know what they are. I know of a home in this town. The program is this. You go in the back door. You drop off your child. You leave. Your spouse, that you can't stand with all of your guts, goes in the front door to pick up their child so that they can have the handoff for custodial care on neutral grounds. The United Way funds a home like that. I know where the home is. I've been there. I've seen that program.
And that's why I ask you, because you have firsthand, you know where this money goes, and you know the organizations that rely on it. We hear about it, but that's why I ask you, because you can actually speak to it, and your experience knows that what a difference that these donations can make to this area.
Yeah, I often talk about sometimes it's just to fund a phone line, so that when the phone rings at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's somebody there to answer it.
Yeah.
At the worst moment of your life, you know somebody's going to answer that phone because people made donations. And it's real, honest, good stuff. 1 in 3 people in our community benefit directly from the United Way.
Over 50 different organizations.
Yeah, and they fund 80 different programs.
Yep.
It's remarkable. And even in a pandemic, we said, no, we got to make sure that has to happen.
And as you said, in a pandemic, having raised nearly $4 million. Yeah. Kudos to you, Hastings, Prince Edward. Amazing.
Everybody talks about freedom right now. I don't want to get on the convoy thing. There's something going on today.
Apparently.
But that to me is freedom. That to me, you make donations. People who are captive in poverty or illness, you've allowed them more freedom to be able to get to these programs. That's awesome. I think that's just great.
So you don't want to talk about the convoy today?
What do you want to talk about with that? Because there's a bit of a counter protest.
That's what I mean.
10 o'clock? By the time this airs, it would have gone
on socials this morning. The fact that there was going to be a convoy meeting just off the 401 between Queen West and Belleville.
Yep.
And then travel in. And and then right next to it was the invitation of a anti-convoy group that wanted to
go out there and block them from getting on the highway.
Yeah. I'm like, okay.
So, because that's one of the things we're going to talk about in Likeable People is a lot of people have made up their minds one way or the other. You're not in the middle.
There doesn't seem to be a gray area or the ability to allow yourself to well, the word is open your mind. Keep an open mind when it comes to a different perception or opinion. Seems like we've become very narrow-minded, in fact. And it's, as you said, that's my opinion. That's what I'm sticking to. Don't care. Don't want to hear you. Don't want to see it. Just, this is what I think. This is what I'm doing.
I often talk about the fact that there are opinions, and I don't really trust opinions because they're just opinions. But I will trust perspective. And the difference is that my opinion is based on my perspective. In other words, I've been part of that situation before. Therefore, my opinion has experience. So I will listen to that. So, for example, when I say I have my opinion on it, but when somebody who lives in Ottawa says, yeah, but I have a perspective because I live there, I give that more credence. So I tend to read the both sides of the Ottawa thing for people who lived there. And you lived in Ottawa, right?
Right downtown.
Can you imagine what this is doing? Like, can you see it in your head?
Yes, I can. I've done it several times. It was congested to begin with. So then to have all these people congregate right down. Well, and I often think of Canada Day too. If you've ever been in the capital for Canada Day, like downtown shuts down because of the people. And that's what I imagine. And it would, I think of the businesses and the people who live in that area, even a few blocks up from that area, what they must be experiencing, hearing. The traffic is a big one. The backlog. Anyone who has traveled in downtown Ottawa, again, it can be very difficult on the best of days trying to maneuver all the streets down there.
Right.
So when you have truckers down there, these great big transport trucks parked in the middle of the street and the chaos it must be creating.
Kind of funny because I was born and raised in Windsor. So when I see shots of the Ambassador Bridge, which is where I used to bike to all the time down near where I worked, and the road shots you see were about a 5-minute walk from my house, to think that this is now international news and what they were doing around the bridge, it's just, it's strange to me. And I suppose the open-minded of me says, I don't know whose fault it is. I don't know whose job it is to fix it. Bill talked about that in the cheap seats. If we want to not prevent it or clean it up or solve it, I guess the point, if we want to solve it so that we don't have these situations, so that truckers don't feel they have to do this and people don't have to get things blocked, right?
Yeah.
Like if we want to help, if we want to truly solve it, whose job would it be to solve it? I'm not sure it's Trudeau. And I know you feel a little bit strong. You feel not differently, but you have a different perspective having been there. I don't know if it's Ford. I don't know if it's the city's mayor. Like, who would have to solve? I mean, all levels are involved. So in the future, what would we have to do today to prevent that from happening another time? I don't know the answer to that.
I think because it's happening across the country, that's where I go to Trudeau.
Right.
He is our leader.
Right.
He's
because it's showing up in different pockets.
Different pockets. Yeah. And I think over everyone, it kind of comes down to him and the people working with him to come up with a solution. Because the mayor of Ottawa, I think, can only do so much. And then the premier can only do so much.
But can't they do enough? Can't they do enough? Or are they just electing not to do enough?
I think they're electing not to do enough.
Because the emergency order is already out from the premier, and he was going to send some OPP officers to help out in Ottawa, and I think he sent 100, and he was supposed to send
But it's still going on.
Yeah.
It's still, and that's
what I mean. So did he do what he could Because it's political.
That's what I mean.
get it. It's not just...
Maybe he did do enough that he could.
Or wanted to.
Right. But it's not, as you said, fixing it or helping. It's still going on. So clearly it's not working. So what's the next step?
Yeah.
Because
a lot of it's political. Let's not pretend it's not. So,
exactly.
Solving it isn't in everybody's best interest. There are some groups that don't want it to end. They don't want it to be solved.
And you want it to come to a peaceful ending.
Yeah.
It's not about going in there and causing more chaos. It's about finding a way to, okay, we've heard you. We know what you want, and we want to work with you. So let's do that. But we need you to do this first so we can then proceed here. Just finding that common ground.
And then, some of the organizers, for all their best efforts to want to do it as a convoy, whether it's been hijacked by other people or not, that's an argument for another day.
Yeah.
Maybe, but if we leave, then you're going to ignore us, and then we didn't do anything. So we want what we want, and then we'll leave. It's sort of like who's going to blink first, right? So we'll see where it goes, and we'll see. I'm sure on the show tomorrow we'll have more about what happened at 10 Acre Truck Stop, if anything. By the time this podcast airs, it would have sort of come and gone. So who knows what it'll be like. And hopefully whatever it is peaceful at best, of course. We're hoping for that. But from the habits of most likable people we talk about, likable people have an open mind. So the fact that you and I just had that discussion is impossible for people who aren't likable. We must be likable.
Yay!
Because people are like, you know what? The open mind is, but have you thought of it from this perspective about anything? And they would say, likable people would say, no, I haven't, but tell me more.
And
consider it. And again, they say a very intelligent mind can consider a thought without accepting it and not judging themselves.
And that's the point.
I'm really thinking about it.
You don't have to then take my opinion or my thoughts or my perception of a situation on. You don't have to agree with me. It's just keeping an open mind and listening to the other side. Allowing yourself to even see it from that side. You don't have to like it. You don't have to go along with it, but you're willing to. It's a likable person quality. Being open mind to it. A likable quality. Okay.
So other likable people qualities include they develop a mental attitude that's very positive, and they make sure people know it. So you will know they're a positive person.
Which is great. But then I think this is why I'm not likable, because I think there's going too far with it.
Oh, okay.
When you're annoyingly positive.
You're right.
Not so likable. But yes, if you're an optimist, if you're optimistic about things, then yes, I would say you're likable.
Yeah, you're here comes Susie Sunshine.
Exactly. I haven't had my coffee yet, Susie. I need a minute.
This is covered in a couple of different points, and I want to spend more time on it because you really reacted to it this morning. They pay close attention to someone speaking to them, and then I'll combine it with the last with, and they'll act as if that person they're speaking to is the most important person in the world.
I think that's an incredible
The gift of giving
quality.
Attention to somebody is a very likable person quality.
Making that person feel heard and acknowledged and seen, which I think is what those qualities do, is an incredible gift to give someone. And I think, yes, if you can do that, of course you're going to be likable. I want to know you. I want to know more about you because you've made me feel this way.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the other person too.
Likable people always smile when they're speaking with others. So that's a big thing.
I like that, yes.
That's going on. They know that not all their thoughts need to be expressed. Likable people.
Having a filter, yes, can make you very likable. And we don't always need to know everything you are thinking. So yeah.
Likable people don't procrastinate.
That's a big one. Why
do you suppose that's on there, though? Why?
Because they're so positive and up all the time, they just get it done? I don't know.
I wonder if it's because if I procrastinate, that impacts you at work. If I delay, they recognize that everything that they do interacts with somebody else, and they don't want to be the reason something falls down. I wonder. I'm guessing at this point.
That is a very good, because I dislike people. I shouldn't say dislike. It bothers me. If you had a job to do and what you did affected someone else, then you need to make sure your job's done.
Yeah.
And quite often or at times that can fall down. So if you're relying on someone else, what they do affects what you do, then yes, you need to make that extra effort.
Yeah. So
does that make sense, or did I just go on a tangent there?
No, that does.
Because I would not like you if you would be unlikable if you procrastinated and held up everybody else.
I wish it said that the most likable people are always prompt and on time, because that's mine. It's not procrastinating. What drives me crazy is...
Yes, but you're holding someone else up. Your actions are affecting the ability of someone else continuing on.
If I say I'm leaving at 9...
I am in the car.
My family
at
doesn't.
8:58.
It's backing out of the driveway because they know I'll leave them behind. Don't make me late. I don't want to ever be late somewhere, and I don't like it if somebody makes me late.
And it's a level of respect too, right? It's respecting that other person.
Likable people also engage in at least one good deed a day. They make a point of doing a good deed a day. And I think that might be the best place to start when we say, if you want to adopt one quality to become a more likable person, I think it should be look out for that one good deed a day. And I'm not saying you have to wake up and say, all right, I'll go buy coffee for somebody. Who should I? It's when you're in an opportunity to say, oh, this is a chance for me to do something likable in this situation. I'm going to diffuse this situation, or I'm going to improve this situation. Or maybe the best thing is I'm going to absent myself from this situation so that it doesn't turn into something you shouldn't, to find a way to try and do a good deed a day.
Well, and a good deed could be as easy as opening a door, as we always say.
Yeah.
And yes, and then someone will like you because you've opened the door for them. But the other big one on there too that we both kind of went, oh, is the being patient.
Yeah, they're patient. They're patient.
And I know I am not a patient person. I am not.
I did some home plumbing on the weekend, and I don't like me.
You were unlikable in that moment.
I was highly unlikable. And God bless my wife for just, trying to help.
Yeah.
And I was not accepting help. And then I accepted some help and it got better. And then it eventually, got solved. But in that moment of impatience, rather than, again, having an open mind, no. Right? Like I can go through this
Smiling
list. As something as simple as fixing a drippy faucet.
Yeah.
Not a likable person. I mean, we're thinking big picture things, why you're not successful in your career. Why nobody wants me to be around when there's a leaky tap. A leaky tap. And Mark is completely unlikable in that situation. And I got to find a way not to be like that. And where does it start? Impatient. Mm-hmm. Impatient.
Take a breath.
Yeah. Yeah. Take all day if it has to.
Exactly.
And
There's
sounds
no
ridiculous.
rush. There's no hurry. And that's I found myself more and more saying that because I find it more when I'm driving. I am awful for patience when I'm driving. If I want to go somewhere, I want to go somewhere. I got to be there. And like you, it's timing. It's everything. I have it in my head, how I want to, I have it all laid out. And then if anything happens where there's a hiccup, I find myself more and more being like, okay, calm down. You'll get there when you get there. It's not worth getting upset about. Take a breath. Be patient. Because I get snappy. I'll snap at my kids. I'll snap at my husband. I'll snap at whoever's around me. Like, oh my gosh, let's just go.
Wow. So okay. See, it sounds to me like because I love to drive. And yes, of course, I want to get there on time. But I never get upset while I'm driving. I find driving very calming. If
there's a purpose for the drive, though, if there's someone I have to be, someplace I have to be, then yes.
But it reminds me of my thing. It's sort of like, you like to, I like to shop. You like to buy things. It sounded like that difference between men when we go shopping. We don't go shopping. We go buy things. We go in the store. We buy it. We get out. That's the purpose. Whereas I'm like a shopper when I drive. Just out there enjoying myself. Walk around. Take other roads. Not in a big hurry.
I do have moments like that. I'm not saying this is all the time.
No, I know.
But if there and even with shopping, I am the buyer too. I want to get in. I want to buy it. I want to get out. And if there's any sort of hiccup or bump in the road between me getting in the store and getting out, again, it's the patience thing. It's like, really, I just want that one. And then I stomp out. And
I'm sorry, we out. That person bought the last one. Then there's a mugging at the mall.
And then I am not a likable person because I'm stomping out the mall with the look on my. There's no smiling. There's no eye contact. I don't want to know you. Don't talk to me.
So to become likable, don't irritate Charity while she's driving. Try and do a good deed a day. Get more patient. Look people in the eye. All qualities of likable people.
Yeah.
And before we let you go today, the final thing we talked about this morning was groundhogging. Be very careful when you Google groundhogging.
Yes, you had brought this up. I had not heard the term. So I didn't want to be caught off guard this morning. I wanted to actually sound like I knew what was going on. I Googled it. And when I Googled it,
We're not really talking about that,
exactly. I'm like, we can't talk about this on the air, Mark. And it was something totally different than what you were doing. And I'm glad.
Based on what sociologists would say, that all of us romantically, regardless of the gender we're attracted to, have a type. We have a type.
Yeah, of course we do.
A physical type of the sort of person.
There is a type of person we are attracted to or think we are.
Yeah, that you would, say, okay, now, let me guess, you would find that person attractive. If you know where somebody, you're looking to say, yes, I would absolutely, right? So we have a type. But if you are completely unsuccessful in your relationships by dating into that type, that's called groundhogging.
Because you keep going back to the same
thing over and over again,
type.
Expecting a different result.
They also call that insanity.
Yeah. But in this term, it's like groundhog. It's like the Groundhog Day. It was like you're just repeating it over and
expecting it to work out every time.
Yeah, so why do you keep going for the same people all the time and being disappointed? It's called groundhog. Hollywood would tell you, of course, you need to do something different. That's why in the rom-coms, you meet up with, quote unquote, the wrong guy. The guy you're not attracted to who runs to the airport at the end of the movie to save you from getting on the plane so you can be happy at the end of the movie. So Hollywood's got to figure it out, but apparently we don't. So the idea behind groundhogging, they say, is to get outside of your comfort zone and start getting out to those people that you never would think that you would date before. And as scary as it is, that you got to try it to get away from groundhogging.
I will admit that is me.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had a few of the same people I date, different guys, of course, same traits. And then I met my husband, who is totally different from anyone I had dated prior to. Completely different.
Right.
And boom, we get married.
Were you looking or did it just happen? Because it's one of those things, again, if it just happens, that's different than
I was
I'm date
ready.
Somebody.
I wanted to find someone to settle down with.
Right. Okay.
But how I met him was completely random.
Completely random. That's what I mean.
Completely random.
Yeah.
Yep. And I had known him all my life. And that's the thing, too. It was someone Wayne and I had knew each other. We were acquaintances. We grew up in a small town.
Yeah.
So you're acquaintances with everybody.
Yeah.
So I knew of him. But yeah, it was completely random how we started dating.
But when he was 6, did he think, I'm going to marry that girl?
No. Good.
No.
He might say yes. But no, we hung out in different circles.
Yeah.
He's older than I am. There was no crossover.
See, it's funny because I don't think this study is for you or Wayne. It's for the Tinder generation.
But that's what I mean. We were early 20s
when
mid-20s, I suppose, when we started dating.
Right. What are you going to do?
My sweater's getting really
so warm. That's the tip-off that the podcast is over.
The heaters come on in here. It's like, we're talking and I can feel, I don't know if I look like it, but I can feel,
red.
Yeah, the heat's kind of rising.
All right, let's get you out of here and get some water into you. It's the Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast for Tuesday, February 15th on Amazon Music now. Yay! On Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. YouTube is 17 years old today. It's YouTube's birthday today.
Happy birthday, YouTube.
Happy birthday to 17-year-olds. So it'll borrow your car and not put gas in. That's what it's going to do today. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.